Have you ever imagined becoming a famous historical figure? Tonight, you will become Alexander the Great, but not the roaring lion of conquest, not yet. No, not in this moment of rest. Tonight, you become the dream itself, the seed of a storm, still quiet in the womb of time. Let your breath slow as we drift back, far beyond memory, back to a time before you had a name, before you had a crown, before the world even guessed at your shape. You are not yet born, but you are already imagined. Your mother, Olympias, dreams of fire. She lies beneath the soft fabric of a royal bed in Pella, the capital of Macedon, the summer air thick with the scent of pine and myrrh. That night, she dreams of thunder, and in the sky she sees a serpent curling beside her, a divine sign. She dreams of a lightning bolt entering her womb. She wakes slowly, eyes unfocused, hands trembling over her belly, and she whispers, "He will be more than king." They say dreams are only shadows, but yours casts a light. Your father, Philip, does not dream he conquers, but when he sees the stars above the palace flicker and align the night you are conceived, even his battle-hardened heart pauses. The oracle at Delphi, the priests of Dodona, the seers of Macedon, they all murmur the same strange things, that you are touched by gods, that your soul comes from elsewhere. You sleep in the darkness of the womb, curled as the moon. And even then, the world shifts slightly to make room. When you were born, it is not just another morning. The temple of Artemis in Ephesus burns to the ground that day, a sign. They say that the goddess has left her dwelling to attend your birth. The air is thick with incense and celebration. Your cries echo through stone halls, and your father, hardened by 1,000 campaigns, breaks into a smile no general has ever earned. They name you Alexandras, defender of men, but names are small compared to what awaits. You grow, slowly, beneath tapestries of gold and purple. You were swaddled in silk, rocked by lullabies in ancient tongues. But even as an infant, your eyes hold a strange stillness, like someone listening for a distant drum. Your mother leans over your crib and whispers stories, not of gentle shepherds or kind kings, but of Achilles, of Heracles, of gods who walked and wept among mortals. She strokes your hair and tells you, "You are not merely my son. You are destined to tame the world." And even though you do not yet understand the words, a part of you listens. In the courtyards of Pella, as the olive trees tremble in the breeze, you learn to walk, step by slow, uncertain step. Each night, the palace grows quieter, and you fall asleep under the stars. The marble columns glowing faintly in the moonlight. One night, your father picks you up and points your small hand toward the sky. "See that?" He says gently, "That's not a star, that's your fate." The court laughs when he says it, but he is not joking. You are just a boy, but already eyes follow you. The servants bow a little deeper, the soldiers nod with strange respect, and in your dreams you begin to hear hoofbeats. There will be storms, boy, oceans, mountains. There will be loss and glory and cold nights with only silence for company. But for now, sleep. You are not yet the man history remembers. You are not yet a conqueror, a strategist, a pharaoh, a god. You are just a child born under a burning sign. And in this soft moment, as your heartbeat slows and the ancient air curls like incense, around you know this: you are held, you are chosen, and the world, though it does not know it yet, has already begun to turn for you. Rest now, and if you'd like to continue dreaming with us, if you want to follow the life of this boy, this legend in the making, you are gently invited to follow this sleepy journey. Tonight, you are Alexander, and the dream has just begun. Sleep carries you gently now, as the dream deepens. You are no longer a baby swaddled in silk, nor the quiet soul whispered into the world by fire and omen. You are older now, a boy of sharp eyes and restless feet. The palace walls feel smaller. The marble columns no longer tower quite so high. You are 12, and your name is spoken not with softness, but with expectation. The days in Pella are warm and golden, drenched in light and the rustle of olive trees. You train with the sons of nobles, riding, wrestling, running, always just a little faster, a little more fearless than the rest. Your father watches from the shade sometimes, arms folded, eyes unreadable. He rarely praises you aloud, but when you meet his gaze and he does not look away, it is enough. One morning, the city stirs with excitement. A man arrives in the courtyard, pulling behind him a powerful black horse. Its mane is like midnight flame, its muscles coiled like thunderclouds. No one can ride it. One by one, the grown men try mounting, calming, coaxing, and one by one, they are thrown, tossed like dry leaves. Your father is ready to send the beast away, but you step forward. You say, "The horse is not wild, he is afraid." There is laughter, nervous, sharp. You are just a boy, but you are already something more than boy. You walk slowly toward the horse, the earth soft under your feet, the air stills. Your voice drops into a whisper as you speak to him, not in words, but in feeling, and then you turn him gently toward the sun, because you see what the others do not. You saw the shadows dancing at his eyes. You saw how they scared him. You gave him light, and the horse lets you mount. The courtyard is silent. You ride. You fly. The black mane whips around you, your fingers gripped in the reins, your legs tight around muscle and speed. It's not just a ride, it's a dance, a dream, a silent pact between boy and beast. When you return, breathless and shining, your father steps forward. His voice, always the voice of a king, is thick with wonder. Macedon is not large. Enough for you, my son, he says. You must seek a kingdom that matches your spirit. And so the horse becomes yours. You name him Bucephalus Oxhead, and he becomes your shadow, your thunder, your sleep-born companion for the years to come. He dreams beside you now, the boy and the horse, curled in stables, quiet and warm, breathing in unison under the stars. At night, your mother still tells you stories of gods and heroes, of courage and sacrifice. But now, something stirs within you, a spark that is not just listening, but becoming. You begin to believe the world may be a story that can be rewritten by your hand. And your dreams, oh, your dreams, they begin to swell with visions of battles won not with cruelty, but with brilliance, of lands unknown, of cities raised from dust, of unity not through blood, but through vision. The world calls to you, not yet in words, but in wind and dream. You spend long hours alone. Now, lying on the hilltops above Pella, your eyes scanning the horizon, you speak to the sky as if it might answer. You are still a child, but the weight of something older, something endless, presses softly on your shoulders. And yet, the nights are gentle. The cicadas sing in the trees. The palace lanterns flicker. In the wind, your horse nickers quietly in his stall, and your heartbeat, that steady rhythm of coming greatness slows. Even your father seems more human at dusk. Once, you find him looking at an old map, his fingers brushing the edges of the world he hasn't yet conquered. He glances at you and says, "You'll go farther than I ever did. Just don't lose yourself along the way." He does not say it again, but the words echo. Time folds itself like cloth. The days pass. You grow. The black horse follows you everywhere, as if tied to your shadow. But for now, you are still small, still dreaming, and in this hour, between boyhood and destiny, the world holds its breath. You fall asleep beneath a sky dusted with stars, your arms draped over Bucephalus, the scent of hay and dusk surrounding you. You sleep as boys do, deeply, carelessly, beautifully. But even in your sleep, the world turns. Even now, it is preparing mountains for you to cross, oceans for you to part, legends for you to become. You will be remembered for what you conquer, but what they will not say, what the stones do not whisper, is that before the storms and glories, you were just a boy who saw a frightened horse and gave it light, and that, perhaps, is where greatness begins. Close your eyes now, let the hoofbeats fade. The sky will carry you. The dream is waiting. The sun has shifted in the sky now, and the boy with the wild horse begins to ask wilder questions. You are still young, perhaps 13, but the courtyards of Pella no longer hold you. You are restless in body and mind, filled with wonder, too big for marble walls and empty sparring rings. There is something inside you that wants to know why. Why the stars move, why people fight, why gods watch, and whether the world could be stitched together by more than swords. Your father senses this hunger, this fire beneath your calm, and sends for a teacher. Not just any teacher, but Aristotle. You do not know then how rare this is. The great philosopher, student of Plato, thinker of the world, summoned to live in a grove outside Mysa, just to shape your mind. But you do not yet care for names or lineages. You only care for the questions. The school is nothing like the palace. It is quieter, softer, tucked into the trees. The river nearby hums with cicadas and stories. The wind speaks in syllables. And Aristotle does not tell you what to think. He teaches you how to think. You sit under the shade of plane trees, the light flickering through leaves, and listen to tales of ethics and logic, of medicine and poetry, of distant civilizations and the rhythms of nature. It is not like war, but it is battle in its own way, a battle of meaning. He gives you Homer, and you do not read it. You breathe it. You read of Achilles, and feel your heart beat in time with his. The rage, the glory, the sorrow. You begin to wonder if your life, too, is a song already written. At night, your dreams shift from hoofbeats to verses. You hear the gods in your sleep, not as voices, but as melodies. You ask Aristotle about everything, how rivers shape valleys, how the soul survives death, why men build cities and then destroy them. He answers with patience, sometimes with riddles, and sometimes with a soft smile, as if to say, "You already know the answer." You begin to write, you begin to question, you begin to doubt even your father, even the gods. And yet, as the wind combs the reeds near your school, your mind becomes sharper than any spear. Your voice deepens, your walk becomes heavier. You do not even notice, but the world around you does. There is a moment, quiet and almost forgotten, when Aristotle asks you, "What do you want from this life?" You pause, and you say, to be more than my father, to leave something that lasts longer than marble. He nods, not with pride, but with a sort of worry, because he knows that those who seek to last forever often burn too brightly still. The seasons pass like whispered chapters. You learn geometry by tracing stars. You study politics while watching ants build their tiny cities. You read of Persia, of India, of lands beyond the edge of known maps. And a part of you stirs, the part that wants to see, to walk, to become. But learning is not just in books. You walk among the hills with Aristotle and the other boys. He teaches you how to read a man's face, how to weigh a promise. He speaks of friendship and betrayal, of virtue and excess, of balance, but your soul does not long for balance. It longs for greatness. Still, you listen, because even now, in your youthful certainty, you are learning the thing that separates kings from tyrants, the ability to listen, to wait, to dream with patience. Sometimes, when the wind is still, you wonder if Achilles ever wanted to be Achilles. If glory is something one chooses, or something that chooses you. And sometimes, when the others are asleep, you speak to the night. You say, will I matter? And the wind does not answer. But it wraps you in silence, which is a kind of answer. You do not yet know that soon you will leave Mesa, that your father will call you back, grown and golden, ready for command, that the world is about to crack open at your feet. But for now, sleep. Let Aristotle's voice fade like waves on the shore. Let the scrolls close. Let the trees sway above you as your breath slows into evening rhythm. You are a boy with questions, a prince with a mind forged not only by blood, but by thought. And that too is rare tomorrow. There will be armor, marching, maps. But tonight, there is only soft candlelight, old stories, and the sound of your name being written slowly, carefully into the long pages of time. Close your eyes, Alexander. Let thought become dream. Let the world rest for a moment. There is still time to ask why, but for now, just sleep. The whispers of Aristotle still echo behind you, soft and thoughtful like leaves brushing a quiet path. But now, the scent of parchment and ink has faded. The air has changed. You are 16, no longer a boy. The muscles of your arms have hardened. Your voice carries differently when you speak. And your eyes, those storm blue eyes, have begun to see not only ideas, but strategies. Not only words, but movements. Your father calls you to the field. You ride now with soldiers instead of scholars. The drums are not metaphors, they are real. Their thunder rattles the bones of the valley. The spears glint like stars caught in motion. The Macedonian phalanx, a wall of shields and discipline, breathes as one body, and you ride alongside it, not as a spectator, but as blood. The campaign leads you to Chaeronea, the place of your first true test. The sun is hot and high when you arrive. Dust swirls beneath your boots. Across the plain, the combined armies of Thebes and Athens gather. Veterans, men who once scorned your father's ambition, who now look upon you, his son, with doubt. You were given command of the companion. Cavalry, it is not a small gift. These are the finest warriors in your father's army, and he places them in your care. Not to flatter you, but to measure you. You do not sleep the night before battle, not out of fear, but out of stillness. You lie on your cloak, staring up at the stars, your hand resting on the hilt of your sword. And in that soft dark, you do not dream of victory. You dream only of doing right by the gift you were given. Your breath, your mind, your men. Dawn comes slowly, with a hush, like the moment before the tide returns, when the battle begins. Time stretches and thins. The line of men moves like a sea of bronze. The clanging of armor, the cries of the wounded, they all sound far away, as if underwater. You move with the rhythm of instinct. You see the weak point in the Athenian line before it appears. You speak only when needed, your voice calm and sharp, and when the moment comes, you lead the charge. The thunder of hooves beneath you, the cry that leaves your throat, the way your sword cuts through air, through doubt, through history. This is not rage. This is not the madness of war. This is precision. This is breath. This is you. That line breaks. The enemy retreats. The field is won. Later, your father finds you sitting alone near the edge of the battlefield, your armor streaked with dust and blood not your own. He does not embrace you. He does not praise you. He simply sits beside you and says, "My son, you are no longer a child." And though he says nothing more, you feel the weight of centuries shift slightly in his voice. You nod, and something inside you closes, and something else opens. From that day on, the men do not look at you with curiosity. They look at you with readiness, with belief, with a quiet kind of loyalty that can only be earned where the ground has turned red. You return to Pella not as the boy who rode the black horse, not as the student of Aristotle, but as a warrior. There is no feast, no parade. Your father prepares for more campaigns. You train harder than ever. You ride out alone some nights, letting Bucephalus carry you into the cool dark, where the world forgets itself, and you begin to think more often of Achilles, not the rage, not the war, but the loneliness beneath it, the ache of knowing you are made for something too large to fit within ordinary days. Sometimes, in the quiet after drills, your men catch you reading, not battle plans, but Homer, still, always. Because you are not just a prince of war. You are a dreamer who carries swords in one hand and questions in the other. Sleep comes lightly now. Rest does not cling to you the way it once did. But when it does come, it brings strange dreams of cities glowing on distant shores, of crowns not yet forged, of rivers you have never crossed, but somehow already know. You do not fear them. You welcome them, because now you are not merely walking toward your future. You are riding into it. The world does not yet call you great, but it watches, it leans in, it senses the shape of something ancient and new forming in your shadow. And still, at the end of the day, you return to the quiet, to the slow breath, to the steady beat of your heart beneath your armor. You are Alexander. You have tasted battle, and you have not been consumed by it. Let the drums fade now. Let the banners fall. Let your sword rest beside you, and your eyes soften into sleep. The war will wait. The world can wait, but tonight, let it be enough to have been seen, to have stood, to have begun. The moon still hangs quietly in your sky, but now it is lower, darker, heavier. The days of being the prince behind the horse and the scroll are slipping into memory. You are older now, not in years, for you are just 20, but in weight, in presence, in silence, because everything has changed. Your father is dead. The news arrives not with trumpets, but with whispers. It was during a wedding, your sister's, no less. A celebration meant to bind families, mend alliances. And then, the knife. One cut, one moment, and Philip, king of Macedon, slayer of cities, builder of empire, is gone, assassinated. by one of his own bodyguards. You stand still when you hear it. Your hands do not tremble, your face does not twist, but inside you, the wind goes still. You have known that you would one day wear the crown, but not like this. Not with his blood, still warm, not with his shadow still so tall. There is confusion in the court, fear, doubt. The other nobles eye you with caution. The older generals, those who served beside your father for decades, hesitate. They murmur in corners. They wonder if you can lead. You do not raise your voice. You do not strike with fury. You step forward, calmly, quietly. You bury your father with honor, but you do not weep. And then you begin to move. First you secure the loyalty of the army, not with promises, but with presence. You walk among the men, not as a distant heir, but as one of them. You call each by name. You remember who they buried, who they served, what battles they bled in. Then you move through the court, swift, deliberate. You eliminate those who plot against you, not with cruelty, but with the cold precision of someone who cannot afford to falter. There is no joy in it, but there is clarity. Within weeks, the court is still. The throne is yours, and yet, when you sit on it for the first time, you do not feel triumph. You feel windless, because you know what it means to be king. It means no more quiet walks, no more careless sleep, no more dreams without cost. You are 20, and the world is watching. Macedon trembles under unrest. The Greek city-states rise. In rebellion, sensing weakness, the Persian Empire, vast and glittering, casts its eye westward. And you, Alexander, must decide. You could stay, fortify, rule safely, live long, but you do not want longness. You want greatness, so you ride. First south, into Greece, where Athens and Thebes grow restless. You descend like a storm, fast, brutal, brilliant. And then, you stop. You march not on Athens, but on Thebes, the city that doubts you most. They resist, you crush them, but not with joy, never with joy. Thebes falls, and you weep for it, not aloud, but in the soft quiet of your tent, where only beauty hears your breath catch in the dark. Because you are not a tyrant. You are a surgeon, and the wound you make is meant to heal a larger sickness, rebellion, doubt, fragmentation after Thebes. No city challenges you again. The Greek world bends not in fear, but in recognition. You are your father's son, and more. The League of Corinth reconfirms your father's old title, hegemon, leader of the Greeks. But they whisper a new name behind closed doors, Alexander, not of Macedon, but of all. And then you make your announcement. You will cross into Asia. You will finish what your father began. You will take on the Persian Empire. Your advisors flinch. The older men caution patience. They speak of numbers, of risk, of history. You listen. You nod, and then you go. But not before one final act. You visit the tomb of Achilles. You kneel before it, not in prayer, but in communion. You leave offerings. You speak softly. May I live like you, you say, and may I die remembered. The wind answers in silence, and with that, you turn toward the Hellespont. You board a ship. The oars dip into water like breath, and behind you, all of Greece holds still, watching a 20-year-old king sail east with a dream bigger than a continent. But in your heart, there is calm, not arrogance, not madness, just a knowing. You were not made to inherit a throne. You were made to make one. Let your eyes close now. Let the memory of the funeral fade. Let the sound of battle drums retreat into soft waves lapping against the shore. You are a king now, but more than that, you are a beginning. Rest, Alexander. The storm has not yet come, but it is already moving in your name. The dream continues, deeper now. You have crossed from prince to king, from son to sovereign, and now you begin to cross the sea, not just of water, but of fate. You stand on the deck of your ship, the wind threading through your cloak like a prophecy in motion. The Hellespont stretches before you, silver and endless, the narrow ribbon of sea that separates Europe from Asia. One continent behind you, another ahead. You are leaving home. You are stepping into legend. Before the ship casts off, you perform an old ritual. You take a spear in your hand and hurl it into the shore of Asia. The weapon lands, firm and proud in the sand. You declare the land claimed, not by arrogance, but by purpose, by the will to complete what your father began, to tame an empire that once burned Athens and shattered Greece. Persia, it lies ahead, vast and old and proud, ruled by Darius III, a man you've never met, a name that does not frighten you. You do not see a king, you see a riddle, a mountain to climb, the oars dip in rhythm. Behind you, the cities of Greece fade into mist. Before you, the coast of Asia begins to emerge from the sea like a myth reborn. You land at Troy, not by accident, not by chance. Troy, the city of Achilles. Your hero, your mirror. You step onto its soil with care, walking among its ruins with reverence. You place a wreath upon Achilles' tomb, and you whisper, "You were swift of foot. Let me be swift of thought." That night, you do not sleep in a palace or a tent, but under the stars. You lie on the same earth where gods once walked, where Hector fell, where Helen wept, and you feel time fold in around you. You are no longer just a Macedonian king. You are part of something older, a story stretching back through fire and ash and poetry. And the story begins again with you. Your army follows, loyal and lean, 40,000 strong, against an empire that numbers in the hundreds of thousands. But numbers do not concern you. You believe, deeply and sleepily, that greatness is not measured in mass, but in momentum, and your momentum is tidal. You march inland. The sun is hotter now, the land's unfamiliar. The Persian satraps scramble to react. They gather a force near the Granicus River, your first test in Asia. The river is swift, its banks steep. The Persian cavalry waits on the far side, there, armor glinting like teeth. Your generals counsel caution, you nod. You wait, and then you ride not with calculation, but with clarity. You cross the river headlong, your body like flame, your horse like wind. The current pulls at your legs, arrows cut through the air. For a moment, you are nearly pulled under a spear, grazes your helmet, but you do not fall. Your men follow. The river becomes a memory. The Persians scatter, you win. The Battle of the Granicus becomes the first true page in your legend. The first time Asia tastes your name. After the fighting, you walk among the wounded. You call them by name. You praise them not as tools, but as brothers. You bury the dead with honor. You send letters back to Athens, to Sparta, to Thebes, announcing not your glory, but your purpose. And you rest that night beneath a fig tree, your armor beside you, your hands still smelling of blood and salt. You do not revel, you do not boast, you simply breathe, and somewhere in the quiet, you hear Bucephalus stir. He knows what you know, that this is only the beginning. that the empire will not fall easily, that Darius is watching now, that other rivers wait, other mountains, other choices. But in this hour, the world is still. The moon rides high, the stars blink slowly. Your army sleeps around you, their bodies wrapped in the exhaustion of victory. You drift between sleep and wakefulness, dreaming of Troy and rivers and crowns not yet worn. You are no longer a boy who tamed a horse, no longer a student of Aristotle, no longer a son. You are the storm, and the world has begun to bend in your wake. Let your thoughts slow now. Let the river run backward into dream. Let the ground beneath you become soft and distant. You are Alexander, and you have stepped onto the shore of forever. The dreams are different now. They carry the weight of iron and the smell of fire, because war, once a distant story told in song, now sleeps beside you in the bruises of your men, in the dust that clings to your cloak, in the heavy breath of your horse as dawn trembles on the horizon. You have marched east since Granicus. City after city folds into your path, Sardis, Halicarnassus, Phaselis. Some surrender, some resist. You reward the wise, you burn the proud. You are not cruel, but you are not slow. You move like a current the land cannot stop. And now comes Issus, the place of narrowing land and rising stakes. The Persian king, Darius III, has finally answered your challenge. He brings not satraps or scouts, but himself. He brings an army vast, glinting, stretching like a river of flame across the plains. He brings elephants, archers, thousands upon thousands of men. You have fewer, but fewer. You have learned is not less. Before the battle, the wind howls through. Your camp, the sea lies to the west, the mountains to the east. You are pinned between, and yet you sleep, because what else is there to do? The mind sharpens in rest. The soul gathers its calm not in shouting, but in silence. So you lie down in your cloak, the stars above, Bucephalus tethered nearby, the murmurs of your companions soft and slow, like lullabies of steel, and you dream. You see Darius before you, not as a king, but as a shadow moving backward. You see the battlefield, not as it is, but as it will be. The narrow path, the banks of the Panorus River, the moment the Persian line stretches too far. You do not fear, you understand. When you wake, your heartbeat is even, your voice is low. The men watch you. They do not see nerves, they see stillness. You lead them forward. The sky is thick with dust. The sun glints off bronze. The shouting begins. Time slows. You take your place with the companion cavalry on the right flank. Your spear held steady, Bucephalus beneath you, as sure as stone. The Persians stretch before you like a wall without end. Then you move. You strike. Not at the mass, but at the core. Straight toward Darius. Toward the gilded chariot. Toward the center that holds too much weight. And then something remarkable happens. Darius flees. His chariot wheels turn in panic. The great king of Persia disappears into the dust, leaving behind his sword, his banners, even his family. The field breaks. You do not chase him, not yet. Instead, you tend to the aftermath. You find his wife and daughters, not as prizes, but as people. You speak to them with dignity. You assure them they are safe. You order they be treated as queens, not captives. Because this is not a conquest of cruelty. This is the beginning of a different kind of rule. That night, the camp is hushed, not with fear, but with awe. You sit beneath the stars once more, and your men gather not around fire, but around you, not to worship, but to understand. Who is this man who rides like thunder, strikes like lightning, and speaks like a student? You do not answer them. You let the silence speak, and when they drift to sleep, you remain awake a little longer. You think of Darius, his fear, his flight. You wonder if he dreams now, if he sees your face in the firelight of his mind. You do not hate him, but you know he must fall, not because he is cruel, but because he is yesterday, and you are the future, galloping forward like a wave that refuses to break. You sleep with your sword beside you, but you do not grip it. You sleep not as a man guarding power, but as a man who has earned his quiet. Tomorrow will bring more cities, more choices, more lines to cross. But tonight, there is only the slow rhythm of breath, the distant song of the sea, and the feeling that you are exactly where the story needs you to be. You are not merely surviving, you are shaping. Let the hoofbeats fade now. Let the battle dissolve into mist. Let your dreams carry you forward, gently, without rush. You are Alexander, and you have made the gods take notice. The battlefield drifts behind you like a dream half remembered. The dust of Issus settles into legend. And now, you turn south, toward a land as old as time, where the sun rises differently and the gods speak in stone. Egypt, the name carries weight in the silence of your tent. Even the most seasoned of your men speak it with a kind of reverence, as if the land itself can hear. You do not rush. You march along the coast, through Phoenician cities that fold under your gaze. Tyre resists a proud island fortress, but you wait, patient and stormless, for 7 long months. You build causeways, you starve them by sea and siege dot, and when the walls fall, you do not smile. You mourn because every conquest is a breath taken from the world. And even the right path leaves ashes then, at last. You reach the edge of the desert, and beyond it, Egypt. The land receives you not with resistance, but with welcome. No battle, no walls, no blood. They call you liberator. The Persian satraps vanish. Into wind, the priests bow. The people open their arms to you as if they have known your face from birth. Perhaps they have. Perhaps the desert remembers everything. You ride slowly along the Nile. The river gleams like a path of memory. Temples rise from the sand, their carvings older than your language. The air is dry, but not cruel. You feel your breath slow, your pulse soften. This land is not like the others. It does not bend to power. It recognizes it. In Memphis, you are crowned pharaoh, not as a formality, but as something deeper, a right older than kingdoms. They say you are the son of Ra, the child of Ammon. The gods do not question you, and for once you do not question yourself. The ceremony is quiet, sacred. You wear the double crown of Upper and Lower Egypt. You stand still as incense curls around you, as chants echo through stone columns, as ancient eyes watch from statues carved 1,000 years before your birth. You do not speak, you listen, because here, silence means something. That night, you sleep beneath a ceiling painted with stars. Not the sky, but a temple. The stars do not move. They are still, eternal, golden dot, and in your dreams, they blink. The gods of Egypt do not speak in thunder. They speak in stillness. You wake with sand in your hair and the strange sense that you have become something. Not just a conqueror, not just a king, but a vessel. And so you begin again. You ride to the edge of the western desert, to the oracle of Siwa, a temple hidden in the silence of dunes and wind. It is not a journey of strategy. It is a journey of spirit. The desert tests you, the sun blazes, the maps fail, your guides lose their way, but you do not. You follow the stars, you follow the birds, you follow the feeling. And finally, the temple rises like a mirage made real. The priests greet you, veiled and solemn. They take you in, alone. No one knows what was said inside those walls. No scroll records it. No soldier heard it. But when you emerge, your face is calm. Your eyes are different. And from that day forward, you no longer seek the gods. You walk with them. You return to the Nile with a vision. A city, not a camp, not a fortress. A city. You choose a spot where the river meets the sea, where trade can breathe, where cultures can touch, where dreams can land. You name it Alexandria. Not for ego, but for memory. For meaning, you do not plan its streets as a general lays traps. You plan it like a sculptor. You imagine the light between buildings. You imagine philosophers debating beneath olive trees. You imagine scrolls, laughter, silk, hope, and you begin to build while the stones are laid. You rest, and your dreams are not of war. They are of ships arriving from distant lands, of children learning in languages not yet spoken, of peace that hums like a low, steady song. You are not yet done with conquest. The road ahead is still steep. But here, in Egypt, something inside you rests. Here, you are not just Alexander, you are Pharaoh. Let the wind of the Nile carry you now. Let the desert cradle you in its endless arms. Let the voice of the temple echo softly in your chest. You are more than a man, you are becoming an idea, and the world is starting to believe in you. Sleep, Alexander. The sand remembers, the river forgives, and the stars will wait. The river Nile has faded into memory, like a lullaby half forgotten in the morning light. You have left the temples of Memphis, the sands of Siwa, the bones of ancient gods behind you, and now the wind is rising once more, not as a whisper, but as a summons, because Darius waits, not with scribes or messengers, but with an army that blots out the plain. He has gathered all that Persia has to give men from every corner of his empire, from Bactria to Babylon, from Susa to Sardis. Hundreds of thousands, spears like forests, drums like thunder, chariots with scythed wheels, elephants, towering and strange. And this time, he does not run. The plains of Gaugamela stretch before you, like a quiet stage before the play begins. The stars above are cold and still. You walk the length of your camp in silence the night before battle. No armor, no fanfare, just the hush of breath and sleep, and men curled around their hopes. You nod to the guards. You touch the mane of Bucephalus. You sit for a long while at the edge of the plain, letting the night settle into your bones. There is no fear in you, only clarity. This is not a fight for survival. This is the turning of a key. If you win tomorrow, the Persian Empire begins to fall, not like a building burned, but like a bell rung through time. When morning comes, you dress slowly, not in gold, but in steel. Your companions gather around, you, quiet and ready. They do not speak of odds or numbers. They speak only of you, because you are not simply a general. You are their belief. Walking, the ground trembles as Darius approaches. You see the dust rise, then the banners, then the endless wave of movement, cavalry, chariots, rows upon rows of glittering bronze, and in the center, a chariot, gilded and high. Darius himself. You raise your spear not to threaten, to begin. Battle is not fast. It is not clean. It is a dance with fire. The Persian cavalry slams into your left. The scythed chariots race forward, their blades cutting the air. But you do not break. You bend, you draw their forces wide, leaving the center thin. You see the weakness. You feel it. The slight hesitation in their horses, the flicker of doubt in their lines. And you strike. You drive your cavalry forward. Not around, but through. You cut the world in half. The chariot of Darius wavers. You are close enough to see the gold of his robe, to hear the panic of his guards. And once again, he flees. He turns his chariot and vanishes into the storm he summoned. Your men cheer, but you do not raise your voice. You ride among the fallen. You gather the wounded. You find the standard of Persia lying in the dirt, a symbol not only of a battle lost, but of a crown beginning to crack. Gaugamela becomes more than a victory. It becomes a shift. The world tilts. The east begins to open. Babylon sends envoys to surrender. Susa opens its gates. The royal palace at Persepolis, glowing with years of conquest, jewels and silk, lies ahead. You enter cities as both conqueror and guest. You do not raise them, you preserve them. You walk among their scholars. You listen to their priests. You learn their customs, because you do not want to erase Persia. You want to become it. The world, you realize, is not a thing to be conquered. It is a language waiting to be spoken, and you are learning how to speak it. But that night, after Gaugamela, you sleep on the ground, not in a palace, not on silks, on the earth, with your arm around your sword, with Bucephalus dozing beside you, with the stars once again blinking like slow thoughts above your head. You think of Darius. You think of his silence. He has fled a second time, but he will not escape a third. You breathe deep. The scent of battle still lingers, but the wind has changed. It carries your name now, Alexander. Not just king, not just conqueror, but something stranger, a bridge between worlds. Let the drums fade now. Let the hoofbeats retreat into the distance. Let your body fall soft against the cradle of history. You have met your mirror, and he has shattered. Sleep now. The crown is closer, but for tonight, let it wait. The wind that once howled behind you now seems to bow. You have crossed plains, parted rivers, broken empires. You have chased shadows across deserts, and found yourself staring into the eyes of kings. And now, Babylon, it rises before you, not as a city, but as a vision. The gates are blue, deep lapis, flecked with golden beasts that glint in the sun. The walls are high, ancient, soft at the edges from time and sun, like a dream that has taken root in stone. This city, once the jewel of Mesopotamia, opens its arms to you. No resistance, no blades, no fire. The priests come first, robed in gold dust and old knowledge. Then the nobles, heads bowed. Then the people, thousands of them, lining the roads, tossing flowers, singing in languages you do not yet speak. They do not fear you, they welcome you. You ride slowly through the streets, not triumphant, not loud. You do not raise your sword. You raise your gaze. You notice the gardens, how they hang from stone like green waterfalls. You notice the ziggurats, stairways to forgotten gods. You notice the silence between songs, because here you are not a conqueror. You are an answer. The city pulses with memory. You walk halls where Hammurabi once passed laws. You cross courtyards where Nebuchadnezzar once dreamed of heaven, but now your name echoes where theirs once did. You do not destroy Babylon, you tend to it, you restore temples, you visit shrines, you make offerings not to one god, but to all. Zeus, Marduk, Ahura, Mazda. You speak not as a king who rules, but as a man who listens, and the people listen back. At night, you do not sleep alone. The air is heavy with warmth, not only of the desert, but of a city exhaling its fear. You lie on soft cushions, the scent of frankincense thick around you, but still you dream of movement, because stillness, though sweet, is not your final shape. You dream of Darius, not as a king now, but as a fugitive. He runs west, then east. His empire is crumbling beneath him, piece by piece, city by city. You know you must follow, but not yet. For now, you build. You issue new coinage, your face carved into silver, not as a tyrant, but as a symbol. You keep Persian advisors close. You marry your vision to their customs. Your men grow uneasy, some whispering of dilution, of forgetting who you are. But you have not forgotten. You are Alexander, and you know that to rule the world, you must become the world. There is a moment, quiet, unmarked, when you walk alone. Along the Euphrates, the river is slow, its current dark and wide. You kneel, you touch the water, you do not pray, you simply ask, is it enough? And the river, eternal and indifferent, does not answer, because it is not the river's question to answer. It is yours. You rise, and the wind lifts the hem of your robe. You look east, always east, because beyond Babylon lies the rest of the empire. Beyond Darius lie the mountains. Beyond victory lies meaning. And meaning is the one thing you have, not yet conquered. So you prepare. You train your men again, even as they grumble. You redraw maps. You speak to engineers. You study languages late into the night, and when you sleep, it is not deep, because Babylon, for all its gold and softness, is not a resting place. It is a turning point. The world bends here, and it waits to see what shape you will choose. Let your breath slow now. Let the hum of the city fade beneath the wings of owls. Let the stars soften behind the veils of smoke and incense. You have taken a city not with fire, but with presence. And for a moment, the world is quiet. Rest, Alexander. Tomorrow, the path winds higher. But tonight, the rivers remember your name. The golden haze of Babylon fades behind you like a warm breath against your back. You turn east again, always east, where the map grows faint, and the names blur into silence. You are not chasing cities now. You are chasing Darius, but he is no longer a king. He is a shadow, a moving point in the distance. He flees across the empire that once bowed to him, not with dignity, but with desperation. You follow through deserts, through ravines, through mountains so high the stars feel close enough to grasp that these lands, Bactria, Sogdiana, Parapamisade, do not offer you triumph. They offer resistance. Not in great battles, but in the thousand small ways the earth resists being ruled. The air grows thin. The roads disappear. Your army marches in silence now. The men are tired. Their armor grows heavier. Their patience stretches thin. They thought the empire ended with Babylon, with Persepolis, with the burning of Darius' palace, when gold and fire lit up the night sky like judgment. But you knew better. You always knew, because this is not about revenge, not even about conquest. It is about the completion of something, and you will not stop until the last page is written in a narrow mountain pass. Your scouts find him. Darius. Dead, murdered by his own satraps, betrayed in his flight, abandoned by the very ones who swore loyalty. You stand over his body, silent. The blood has dried. His eyes, once filled with fear, are now only vacant. You order his body buried with royal honors, not as a gesture of mercy. As a message, the age of kings fleeing from kings is over. The world is changing, and you are the reason. But the mountains are not yet done with you. From the high passes and frozen ridges, rebellion stirs. A prince named Bessus, one of Darius' betrayers, crowns himself the new king of kings. He takes the title, not the throne, and he runs deeper into the mountains. So you follow. You divide your forces, take narrow trails, build roads where none exist. You are not a king here. You are a ghost in the snow, a whisper in the cold, and slowly you close the gap. Bessus is captured. You do not kill him in haste. You bring him to trial. Persian trial, their laws, their voices, because you are not just ruler of Macedon anymore. You are heir to the East, and the East watches how you carry its crown. It is in these frozen days, among the stone villages and narrow passes, that you meet her. Roxana, the daughter of a nobleman, captured after a brief siege. But when you see her, truly see her, you do not see conquest, you see stillness. Her eyes are dark and unreadable, her poise quiet but firm. You do not take her. You ask and she says yes. You marry not just a woman, but a bridge, a future, a symbol that Macedon and Asia can be more than just conqueror and conquered. The wedding is quiet, the mountains sigh, and for a moment the war softens. Your men murmur, some disapprove, some begin to wonder who you are becoming, but you do not explain, you simply move forward, because you know now the path of empire is not paved only in victories. It is paved in change, and change is not always understood. You spend the winter in these hills. You sleep beside fires that barely hold back the cold. You listen to your commanders argue, your companions doubt. You wake in the middle of the night, sometimes with dreams of rivers long past, of temples long burned, of simpler days, but you do not turn back, not even when the snow thickens, not even when the wind howls like prophecy. You press forward, because the world you see ahead is still forming, and you will not stop until it stands whole, impossible, real. Let the mountains sleep now, let the wind settle, let your hands grow, warm beside the embers of hope. You are Alexander, not just of Macedon, not just of Greece, not even just of Persia. You are becoming something that has no name, and the earth is beginning to understand. Rest now. The peaks have tested you, but they have not broken you. The mountains slip away behind you like a dream melting into dawn. The air warms. The rivers grow wide again. The soil softens beneath your army's feet, and still you march east. Your advisors plead for rest. Your generals murmur in your absence. Your soldiers write letters home that will never be sent, but you are not finished, because beyond the known world there is still land, still sky, still time. India, the very word hums with mystery in your ears. You hear of it in fragments, stories of jungle beasts, kings with elephant armies, rivers that taste of silver, a land where philosophy lives in the open air, and gods where 1,000 Face as you imagine it as a mirror turned to your own ambition, endless, bright, unknowable. And so you chase it. Across the Hindu Kush, your army struggles. The rain becomes relentless. The jungle closes in. The air is thick, not with sand or smoke, but with a different kind of resistance. One that doesn't fight directly, but waits. Watch as you lose men. Not just to arrows, but to fever, to despair, to distance. Still, you press on in the valley. Of the Hydaspice, you meet your final worthy opponent, King Porus. He brings elephants, giants with iron tusks, their hides painted, their eyes heavy with a sadness you do not expect. You admire him even before the battle begins. You try diplomacy. First, you send envoys, offers peace on your terms. He declines, and so the battle begins. Rain pours in sheets. The river swells, and yet you cross it, not by force, but by timing. You wait for the storm, for the veil of water and wind. You strike in darkness. Your phalanx meets elephants in the mud. The earth shakes beneath their weight. Your men scream. The air is filled with terror, not just from the clash, but from the newness of it. But your tactics hold, and when the battle ends, Porus stands tall, defeated but unbroken. You summon him to your tent. He arrives, bloodied, regal, proud. You ask him how he wishes to be treated, and he says, like a king. You nod, and you do. You return his lands. You make him your ally, not out of strategy, but out of respect, because Porus is the kind of man you could have called friend, had fate not placed you on opposite shores. The battle becomes legend, but something else happens that day, something no war can hide. Your men begin to crack. They have followed you for 10 years, across seas, deserts, mountains. They have buried brothers in foreign soil. They have seen glory and grief, and now they whisper, they ask when it will end. At the banks of the Hyphasis River, they tell you, softly but firmly, that they will go no farther. You do not yell, you do not punish. You stand alone for hours, staring at the water. You think of Achilles, of glory, of home, and then you do what no god king ever does. You listen, you turn back. You begin the long journey west, not with triumph, but with surrender, not to Persia, not to enemies, but to humanity. It humbles you. It teaches you something. The stars never could. That even a man who bends the world must sometimes bow to those who carry it. On the way back, you build cities. You heal the sick. You marry more of your men to local women. You begin to dream not of conquest, but of connection. The empire stretches now from Greece to India. It is vast, beautiful, and brittle, but you do not fear its fragility. You only wish you had more time. In the silence of your tent, you write letters. You plan. You think of roads, of libraries, of ships that might circle the coasts of Arabia and find new worlds. You are not just Alexander anymore. You are possibility, but even possibility has limits. And though you do not know it yet, Babylon waits, and with it, your final breath. Let the rain fall now. Let the river run behind you. Let the jungle close gently over the past. You have gone as far as a man can go, and still the dream lingers. Sleep now, Alexander. The world has spoken, and you have listened. The drums have grown quieter. Your army no longer marches with the thunder of ambition, but with the slow hush of return. The long path west is filled with dust and memories. Cities rise behind you. The empire you carved across continents still gleams in the sun, but your eyes, Alexander, are turning inward. You are weary, not weak, not old, just full. There is a heaviness in your chest that is not illness yet. It presses against your ribs like a thought too large to hold. You have everything, and yet the silence grows. You reach Babylon once more. It welcomes you like an old friend, worn, adorned, aware. The priests meet you with smiles. The people chant your name. The banners fly. But beneath it all, the air feels different. There are rumors, omens, a flock of ravens that circled the palace, a man who sat in your throne when no one was watching, a storm that broke the sky in half. You dismiss them gently, but inside something shifts. You speak of plans, of journeys yet to come. You will circle Arabia. You will find new worlds. You will make the ocean itself kneel to your ships. But your voice falters. At night, your tent is large and heavy with incense. The stars beyond Babylon shimmer, but you no longer rise to greet them. You lie still, your hand upon your chest, your fingers twitching in dream. You dream now not of battle, but of faces. Your mother, your father, Hephaestion, whose death, not long ago, carved something out of you that never filled again. You dream of Aristotle's voice, soft and distant. You dream of Achilles walking alone. You fall ill at first. It is small, just a fever. But it lingers. It builds. You cannot rise. You cannot eat. You cannot stop shivering, even in heat. The physicians come. They whisper. They argue. They bring herbs, wine, chants, silence. You lie in bed and watch the ceiling flicker with candlelight. And in your mind, cities begin to fall quiet. Rivers stop moving. Time slows. Your generals come to see you, one by one. They kneel. They ask the question no one wants to say aloud. To whom do you leave your empire? Your voice is low, barely breath. To the strongest, they stare at each other in silence. They nod, but no one knows what that means. You reach for a cup and spill it. You try to speak, and the words break. The fever climbs. Your mind begins to wander, not just in sleep, but in drift. You see Bucephalus again, standing strong in a field that no longer exists. You feel your mother's hand on your head. You hear the roar of the crowd in Babylon, rising like waves. But none of it is now it, is all memory. Folding inward, you think of the world you made not with bricks and fire, but with vision. A world where Persians and Greeks would marry, where gods would share temples, where books would pass through 1,000 hands and never burn. You wonder, was it enough? You close your eyes, and for the first time in many years, you feel peace, not triumph, not sorrow, just a stillness. The stillness of having gone as far as a soul can go. Let the lamps burn low now. Let the voices hush. Let your breath fall into the rhythm of history, slow and tender, because this is the final page you will write, and soon another voice will carry your name forward. But for now, rest. You are Alexander, and your dream is complete. Dear listener, take a slow breath with me. We retreat one respectful pace, so the story can unfold like a hush beyond the reach of you. From here, we watch him as, though seated at the bedside of a sleeping friend while the quiet of history gathers around us, he lies in the royal palace of Babylon, where lamplight wavers against cedar beams and warm June air settles upon the fever of his brow. The chambers are vast, yet every sound is muffled, wrapped in linen. As ministers and physicians move carefully, unwilling to disturb the balance between breath and silence. Outside, the Euphrates drifts by, unhurried and silver, carrying tales. Downstream that Alexander will no longer follow. For 11 restless days the fever rises and recedes like a moon-driven tide. On the first night he tries to sit upright, speaking of new roads and fleets beyond Arabia's rim. By the third, his words become a trickle of syllables, seeking shape. Now, his gaze lingers above the ceiling, tracing constellations only he can chart. His chest rises, falls, waits, then rises again. Around the bed stand the companions Ptolemy, Seleucus, Perdiccas, while Roxana kneels at the pillow's edge. They share glances heavy with memory, dust swirling at Issus, torches flickering in Memphis canals, snow crystals forming in their beards on Sogdian ridges. None dare speak the question, knotting their throats. Who can rule a dream once the dreamer is gone? On the 7th night, when shadows stretch like doubts, Alexander lifts his hand. It hovers mid-air, fingers open, searching for the hilt of an idea. Perdiccas clasps it and feels its heat. The king's lips shape a single, fluttering syllable, Crateros, or perhaps simply crater, asking for water. Physicians disagree, and legend fractures like light through a prism beyond the walls. Soldiers crowd the courtyards, begging to see him one last time. When the doors open, they file past in near silence, footsteps tapping a sorrowful rhythm. Some weep, others bow until their foreheads touch mosaic floors. A few will later swear that Alexander's eyes followed them, luminous with farewell, though he had not stirred for hours. In the gardens a lone lyre player murmurs Homer, sing, O muse, of the rage of Achilles. Notes drift through lattice windows, alighting upon the sick room like gentle snow. One physician mutters that stars burn fastest when they burn brightest. Another replies Alexander has not burned out, but slipped over the horizon where firmaments bend. Roxana cools his lips with wine and honey. She remembers their wedding in the stony heights, his laughter when frost rimmed their garlands. She whispers of the child stirring within her, hoping news of an heir might beckon him back. Yet his breath is a spent tide, receding grain by grain. No. Sooner does twilight cede to dawn than the practical world floods in. Astrologers debate the precise hour of passing so omens may be charted. Perdiccas orders the body bathed in saffron water, swathed in linen steeped with myrrh. Another counselor insists on immersing it in honey until a tomb worthy of such presence can be built. Counselors argue over whether the sarcophagus should travel west to Aegea, heart of Macedon, or south to Alexandria, his gleaming child city by the sea. Outside, Babylon keeps vigil. Torches line the processional way. Citizens who hailed him savior scatter ashes in their hair. In a narrow lane, a child asks why the city sounds like rain on a cloudless night. Her mother answers, sometimes hearts overflow louder than thunderheads. Messengers gallop across the empire from Susa to Sardis, from Bactra to Pella, bearing news heavy as iron. In distant barracks, veterans rise from half-sleep, sensing something nameless lost. On lonely watchtowers above the Oxus, sentries gaze west and feel the horizon dim, as though lamps have been extinguished behind the world's shutters. Amid grief, seeds stir. Scholars whisper that an empire of blended blood and shared God's might outlived the man who imagined it. Libraries yet to rise, maps yet to be drawn, languages unborn that will carry an echo of his syllables. In such murmurs, One might believe he is not gone, but dispersed into roads, trade winds, and the quiet bravery of those who refuse small dreams. On the 10th dawn the generals press once more. To whom does the empire pass? His eyelids drift. Open pupils shimmer like deep wells catching starlight. A faint smile curves his mouth, nor regret, something gentler. The words escape like a sigh, to the strongest. Whether decree or riddle, no one can say. It is the last clear thought Babylon will receive from him. Evening descends, violet and gold. Oil lamps splutter. Perfumed smoke coils upward, each twist a prayer for ease. Alexander's breathing grows shallower, until time itself hesitates. Between one heartbeat and the next, memories ripple outward. The boy taming the black horse under Macedonian sun. The student reciting Homer beneath a plane tree. The warrior knee-deep in the Granicus. The pharaoh embraced by desert winds at Siwa. All those selves converge into hush, like rivers meeting the same sea. Near midnight, his chest stills. A single candle flickers, holds, and burns on its flame unchanged, though everything else falls silent. Companions bow their heads. Roxana presses her lips to his fingertips. Outside, the Euphrates keeps murmuring beneath the moon. He is 32. Half those years spent in war, all of them in yearning for horizons unbroken, for myths made real, for a world stitched together by courage rather than fear. Whether he shaped that world or merely pointed toward it, no one in the chamber can yet tell. Tonight remains a silence so vast it seems to ring like a bell inside the skull. A silence that marvels more than it mourns. In that hush, a listener might believe they still hear Alexander's footsteps echoing down an unseen corridor. Toward a horizon even death cannot bar. Let the lamps dim, let the air cool, let the dreams settle into the quiet hands of history. Alexander has crossed his final river, and we, who travelled within his breath, now stand upon the bank, watching the water catch the stars. Listen to the quiet. Feel how softly it holds his name. Babylon awoke the next day to the hush of something irrevocable. In the palace courtyard, the cypress trees held still, as though afraid any movement might scatter the last warmth of Alexander's departing spirit. Within the royal chamber, physicians gathered their instruments, priests gathered their prayers, generals gathered their ambitions. They spoke in low voices about embalming and processions, honey-filled coffins and gold-leaf sarcophagi. But every sentence felt like an interruption in a room that wanted only quiet. News galloped outward faster than horses should allow across. Syrian sand through the passes of Cilicia, along the royal road to Susa, down the avenues of Persepolis, where the burned gates still whispered smoke. In Pella, an aging queen, Olympias, pressed her fingers to a window lattice and felt the tremor she had dreamt since lightning entered her womb. Farther west, Aristotle heard the rumor in his lyceum and stared at a fig leaf turning in the breeze, wondering whether greatness could ever survive its own example. In Babylon, the generals met beneath painted lions and argued over the strongest. Some claimed blood, others merit, still others the will of the army. For a brief moment, it seemed the empire might fragment like a clay tablet dropped on marble. Yet even the shattering carried Alexander's imprint, for every shard bore his desire to stretch thought beyond frontier. The funeral procession began at dusk. Craftsmen fashioned a carriage of gilded beams raised on bronze, wheels part chariot, part temple. Panel by panel, they inlaid enamel griffins, lapis bulls, and winged suns. as if trying to persuade the underworld that its passenger had already claimed citizenship among higher realms. Soldiers lined the processional way, torches aflame, shields inverted in mourning. When the sarcophagus appeared transparent, crystal sealing a body swaddled in saffron and myrrh, army knelt as one. No trumpet sounded, only the low, rhythmic beat of hands against hearts, a living drum for a silent king. Arguments swirled about the destination. Macedon had a tomb prepared among ancestral kings. Egypt desired its pharaoh returned to the Nile. Babylon's priests begged the honor of eternal guardianship. Through intrigue and midnight bargaining, the convoy slowly bent southwest toward Alexandria. Some said Ptolemy engineered the detour. Others claimed a dream of Alexander himself guided the wheels. Whatever the cause, the sarcophagus rolled across deserts he had once crossed on horseback, under skies unchanged, toward the newborn city that carried his name like a torch into centuries he would never see. Along the route, traders and shepherds spoke of omens. A single star seen at noon above Gaza, a lioness pacing beside the column, then vanishing without. A footprint, rain falling on sun-bleached stone where cloudless sky reigned. Whether true or woven, each tale fastened another thread to the tapestry, already stretching from myth into memory. When at last Alexandria's harbor flashed blue and white against the horizon, sailors climbed mast ropes simply to glimpse the impossible, an emperor arriving as radiance rather than raw. Palm fronds bent in sea wind. Cranes circled unfinished quays where marble blocks waited to become libraries and colonnades. On the shoreline, scholars to be lifted scribes to heaven in salute scribes who would soon catalogue the known world. Beneath roofs of golden cedar, spurred by a vision that learning should travel as far as armies, they entombed him near the city's heart, behind stone doors carved with a sun rising over to joined continents. Some whispered that a lamp was hung above the casket and sworn to burn forever. Others insisted his body rested in honey so pure it would hold his features for ages, allowing distant descendants to gaze upon a face that once looked beyond the edge of maps. Yet even as rituals sealed the vault, rumor insisted he was not inside at all, that he had slipped through crack or dream to wander unseen roads. Restless as always, scouting terrain for future souls, courageous enough to follow. Seasons turned. The companions divided realms and invented new crowns. In Macedon, civil war flickered. In Egypt, Ptolemy raised obelisks. In Babylon, Seleucus traced constellations into city grids. Wherever they ruled, they built theaters where Greek tragedies played in Persian moonlight, and bazaars where Bactrian spices mingled with olive oil, and academies where geometry conversed with astronomy beneath frescoes of thunderbolt, wielding gods shaking hands with fire-eyed Zoroaster. Children born in those hybrid corridors spoke dialects no tutor had scripted. Carrying Alexander's silent decrylit, there be mingling in every vowel. Centuries later, Roman legionaries trekking through Anatolia would find mile markers inscribed in Greek beside cuneiform. Arab philosophers, translating Aristotle in a Nile-delta light, would pause to rest in a portico built on foundations poured by Macedonian engineers. A young woman named Hypatia would teach conic sections in the museum beneath statues of deified conquerors, while a librarian in Pergamon would measure Earth's circumference by studying a papyrus shipped from Alexandria's wharves. Each act, each question, each syllable of shared wonder echoed him not the man who swung a sword, but the boy who once asked why the stars move. Yet all echoes fade, even bright ones. Marble erodes, scrolls burn, and kingdoms translate themselves into dust. In time, travelers reached Alexandria, searching for the tomb, and found only rumor. A wall collapsed in an earthquake. A sarcophagus transferred, then lost to tide. A glass pane gone dark. The body vanished, but the idea persisted that geography could be coaxed into cooperation by imagination fierce enough to believe in bridges no architect had yet drawn. And what of Bucephalus? Legends claimed the great horse died in India and was granted a city for a grave. Others swear they saw a black stallion grazing near the library gardens on moonlit nights. Perhaps the steed lived on, only in mosaic tiles, rearing beneath the feet of an emperor astride eternity. Or perhaps, like his rider, he became momentum itself. A gallop stretched across timelines. Tonight, though such questions may settle into hush, outside your window, a modern wind presses against glass, repeating a cadence older than language. Beneath it, you might hear sandalwood traders in desert lanes, or the creak of a warship crossing a narrow strait at dawn, or the soft thud of a boy's heartbeat as he calms a frightened horse. They are distant, but if you listen carefully, they sing the same lullaby. Travel farther than fear. Ask wider than doubt. Leave kindness where conquest ends. Let these lines draw a quilt across your shoulders as night deepens. Alexander has marched the full circle, from cradle song in Pella to quiet legend on the far edge of memory. Where his footsteps pause, seeds quicken. Where his voice fades, libraries grow. And now the harvest of his dream arrives as tender sleep. For you, breathe once, for the boy staring at stars. Once for the king crowned in desert light. Once for the wandering legend we have watched slip beyond the veil. Exhale long and feel the empire of your own thoughts grow still. Somewhere unseen, a lamplit tomb continues to glow, perhaps real. Perhaps imagined guarding an empty sarcophagus, and the shimmering promise that vision outlives the vessels that first dared to hold it. Good night, traveler, through time. May your dreams carry you beyond familiar maps, toward horizons drawn by quiet courage and gentle curiosity. And when morning comes, may you wake with a heart enlarged, ready to build small Alexandrias of kindness wherever your footsteps fall.